one action that a policymaker might prioritize actually can get you multiple benefits across biodiversity, food, water, health, and climate change, but also across GBF, Paris, and SDGs. So a great example of this would be something like urban nature-based solutions. So that was one of the response options that we highlight as really giving pretty strong multiple benefits across the Nexus elements as well as across different frameworks. And so how that gets implemented, of course, will be very case by case, but the entire concept of helping urban populations access green space serves multiple roles, right? It increases health benefits to people who live in cities. It increases biodiversity within urban areas. It often helps to retain water after rainfalls, filters water. It can contribute to climate mitigation because you've got more carbon sequestration. So it's got all of these multiple benefits. If it's a green space that is linked to, say, urban gardens, it can be providing food for urban populations. So you can see the multiple benefits, but it also ends up checking a lot of the SDG and GBF targets as well. It really helps you meet these in multiple ways. Let me give another example that's another type of response option. So one would be something like repurposing public spending away from subsidies and more towards other ecological investments. And so again, it's a response option that's more aimed at institutions and financing. But when we assessed it, we were able to see really strong benefits for biodiversity, food, water, health, and climate change, but also ticked a lot of boxes for SDGs and GBF, right? GBF has a specific target on subsidies. Another example would be things like integrated watershed health interventions. And so these are watershed management practices that have a really strong health focus. And so it's often aimed at trying to eradicate certain diseases that thrive maybe on coastal terrestrial interfaces. For example, a lot of coral diseases are exacerbated by runoff from terrestrial areas. And so making sure that we have an integrated approach so that coastal and marine systems are managed together with nearby coastal and watershed systems can be really beneficial across multiple frameworks and targets again. So these sorts of actions, they're not surprising, they're not new, they're not something that you've never heard of before. They're often things that are really well established in practice, but they need to be scaled up. They need to be given appropriate financial support. They need to be recognized for their multiple benefits, and that will really help increase their recognition and their uptake.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Might implement this afternoon already when we're working on teams on such actions. So perhaps we could put the wheel with response options on the screen, and colleagues from the country teams will be invited to join your country groups. And some of this, what we're talking about, all the response options that you will see on the screen, trigger interest. Perhaps they could go back to you, ask questions. Maybe you could join one of the countries' table to see how this is implemented in the context.
Yeah, and people should feel free to also access the summary for policymakers, which you can get on the website BES-Net. And it's available now for people to look at, and it provides, as Tiff was saying, the appendix has a really nice breakdown of how each of these response options meets these multiple frameworks and goals.